When you say scripture,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure people are going to think in terms of what they are aware of.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by scripture?
Scripture are a means or an attempt to alert or to trigger.
Oh, so that's why he said to take a scripture and meditate on it.
And meditate, absolutely.
Give me an example of that if you can.
Well, say for instance, in the beginning, God. In the
Right.
beginning, God. That is merely a scripture making an attempt to assist that person who is reading the scripture that all that is that we can see certainly came out of this God that the scripture has denoted. But in order to arrive into the being of that, that's why the master teacher would tell the yogi, meditate for an hour on this, because in the meditating hour, the meaning or the life force or the very divineness of that would arrive in his consciousness.
For an hour, though, isn't that a long time?
That's a long time. But in my estimation, and even like in my meditation, the reason it seemed like a long time is because the student, whether it's me or whether it's anyone else, you have to get past the conditioning of the mind that has already been infused with information of the five senses. Or let's say it another way, because we have become the victims of our upbringing, from our parents, ancestors, etc., etc. And all of that has been fed into you like in a computer. And and we have transferred it into the subconscious mind. So when you begin to embrace truth, you have to sort of wade through all of that and get all those distractions out of the way.
So it's interesting phrase, the victim of others, huh?
Yes.
Lifetime of mistaken beliefs.
I agree. Lifetime of mistaken beliefs, lifetime of somewhat ignorance. What else can we say?
Victims of. Wow.
Yeah,
We have become the victim because we've been taught to rely on the five senses,
absolutely.
which is not necessarily reality, is it?
I agree. It's reality, but only reality from the sense world, from what is out there, and what I would like to say is in constant motion of change. It's in constant motion of change. It is in constant motion of being one thing here at the next. I think Buddha probably said it well. He said if you put your foot in water, in a lake or a river, you can never, and when you take it out, when you put your foot in again, it's different because of the molecular structure has changed.
Yeah, that's right, of course.
Yeah, it has changed.
A constant state of flux.
Absolutely. It's a constant state of flux. That's another reason why we...
Wait, okay.
Go ahead.
Are you saying then, in spite of the constant state of flux, we're taught to believe in a finite thing that really does not exist?
I agree.
Did I ask the question well?
Yeah, well
you understand?
said. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because the five senses tell you if I put a pencil on a table, because I can see the pencil on the table, that's the reality. But we tend not to know that the table has shifted because the world has changed.
Absolutely.
And so you need to be enlightened to understand that change, the senses can only tell you about change.
By change.
Wow.
By change. And the amazing thing about that, Dave, is because we're so attached, or we're so connected. I heard a statement just a few days ago. It said, whatever you're connected to, you become. Whatever you're connected to, you become. It seems to me that most of us are connected to the external world. That's why aging comes in, because being connected to the external world, where it is in constant motion and constant change, nothing is the same from one moment to the next moment. And when you identify or connected, you change too.
Right.
That's why Moses in the scripture, it says that he went back up to the mountain 8 different times. Now, going up to the mountain is simply to say that he went back up into the divine.
It's a metaphor for the divine?
Absolutely, for the divine. He stayed there for 40 days and 40 nights because each one of us during the day, but what we do, except in the movements, we give off energy, release energy. And what also, that is your gas, your energy that you release and give off by so much contacting with the outer world. It's your energy or the gas or the fuel that you're giving off. That's why at a certain period in life, it seems to be depleted. Now, and so Moses, by going back into the source, back into the divine, he replenished it. And that's why the scriptures say when he came down from the mountain, his whole persona was different, youthful and vigorous. And it was such an array of light within him because he was in fact the image and likeness of God. That was his original blueprint. And by going back up there, he was able to recapture that.
So can the ordinary person do that?
Yes, it's possible. But it requires a tremendous amount of commitment, dedication, resolve, and discipline.
Commitment, dedication, resolve, and discipline.
And discipline.
And the average person is not willing to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So you really can't just go to a place, a building every Sunday and then become anything.
No. That's not enough time. That's not enough time to get rid of all the trash that you've allowed to be accumulated into your subconscious mind.
Well, okay, I noticed that when you use the word like scripture, you're not using a specific book, are you?
No, not necessarily, no. And sometimes, for the sake of whoever I'm talking with, I may use scripture in the Bible because that's what they're more familiar with.
Oh, so you simply use the word scripture in terms of the vernacular of the person you're talking to.
Absolutely.
I got you.
Yeah.
So I didn't want anyone to even believe that whatever they believe in is absolute and there is no other source of information.
No. There's other sources of information.
Some
Sources of information, in my estimation, is a little more meaningful and a little more to the point and simply say in a better way what the scriptures say.
It's interesting that you made reference to India. Did you find your trip to India? By the way, how did you get to India? I know. I seem to be jumping around, but I'm just,
That's all right, Dave.
Where were you from originally?
From Mississippi.
Mississippi.
Greenwood, Mississippi. And did I say the eldest of 16 children?
You were the eldest of
16 children.
Wow.
9 boys. And 7 girls. And out of the 16, only one is deceased. One of the girls. The other 15 are all living.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was in 1947 that my father left Greenwood, Mississippi, went to Ohio, Lima, Ohio, and after he'd gotten a job there, he sent back to bring us there. And of course, the culture in Ohio was certainly different from Greenwood, Mississippi at that time. That was before the Civil Rights Movement or anything, you know.
This was in 1947?
1947. And then after a period of time, you know, going through a process and of having the good fortune of meeting certain rare individuals that crossed my path. And I think you and I used, or at least you did, at the meeting that we had, 3 or 4 days ago, you mentioned the fact that we probably had, I think, several incarnations or whatever it was, I think, however you used it, you know what I mean? You know, that we've...
You know, a lot of people don't believe in incarnations. Is that your phone?
Yeah, I'm going to just leave it.
Okay. A lot of people don't believe in incarnations because, and I think you alluded to it earlier, in their 5 senses they are limited to what they can see, touch, and that's it. So even though, in my estimation, nothing makes sense unless you embrace incarnation. It simply does not make sense otherwise. And you also mentioned you met rare individuals. You think these are like souls that came into your life for specific reasons?
I do. I really do. Without question. Without question.
Why would you say that?
Well, they crossed my path without formality, and without the usual kind of fanfare of meeting a person. It was as if they came out of the blue at a time when the student was ready. It was not announced by someone else, you know, that you're going to see this person or anything, and although that could be, perhaps, possibly, but that's the way I met these individuals. And also, you mentioned the fact about reincarnation.
Yes.
I have met, down through the ages, even when I was with a little small group of people that were worshiping in their very simple way, and probably in a much lower stage of, can I use the term, maybe scripture understanding in a lower stage. And in Matthew, there's a statement, it's in Matthew 5 and 48, I think it is, where Jesus makes the statement, "Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect." He was talking to a disciple. And out of all those people, as sincere as they were to that point, and of course I always told myself that there had to be more than what I was being exposed to at that time.
When did you get this realization there has to be more than?
Dave, as far back as I can remember, when I started to attending various church groups and so on, and what I would observe from those individuals, I would always say there has to be more than this. There has to be more.
You know, I think a lot more people think that way than will admit it.
I agree. Absolutely. They do. They think that way.
Why do you suppose they don't pursue their inner longing for knowledge?
I think because they're sort of locked into a group association for support. And to move out of that, I think it would bring somewhat separation from that group. It would also bring, to a degree, ridicule of that person is delving into something, see what I'm saying, that we do not endorse.
And they cannot handle the ridicule.
Absolutely. They cannot handle it. And I can understand that because they have not built the fortitude, commitment, and they are not big enough within their own spirit or soul consciousness to move despite the crowd.
So are you saying then that self-awareness and the quest for self-realization is extremely important for the journey?
Yes, very much so.
How do you explain, how does one go about getting into that self-awareness though? Becoming self-aware, the discovery of self, if you will.